My name is Rhonda Craig. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator here at the SPC. I've worked with many of you in the room on facilitating today's meeting, so it's good to see you in person, and thank you for coming. We at the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission have a very informative meeting in store for you today. We're going to cover the Transportation Improvement Program, which is also referred to as the TIP. We are going to give you a sneak peek at some of the TIP projects, and then also our team's going to cover the TIP process. My colleague Dom is presenting. He's going to present on and going into detail about some of the projects that will be taking place here in your community. A little housekeeping. In the back there is the sign-in sheet. If you have not signed in, please sign in. It's very important for us to know who's in the room. Also, back there you'll find the comment form. Also, information about the SPC. So please pick up that kind of information. The restrooms are located out the door, and if you go left and out through that side door, they're right out there in that entranceway. Also, importantly, there's cookies and water and soda back on the table. Please help yourself. I first would like to go around the room, and if we could introduce ourselves, tell us who you are and where you're from. I will go ahead and start here, and then we'll just work our way around. Is that good?
Good afternoon, everybody. Dom DeAndrea, Director of Transportation Planning here at SPC.
Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Gordon. I'm the Transportation Program Development Manager at SPC.
Rhonda Craig.
And we'll see if it's working in progress. David Ambrose, Team Up with for Government Team.
Greg Shermito, Transportation Planner with SPC.
I'm Doug Smith with Civil and Environmental Consultants.
John Weber, Transportation Planner with SPC. Gavin White, Director of Planning and Projects at River Life.
Caitlin O'Connor, I'm the Communications Director here at SPC.
Richard Fitzgerald, Director of SPC.
Angie Martinez, I'm with the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and I oversee our Policy, Planning, and Permitting Division.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeff
Skallick, I'm the Deputy Director for Pittsburgh.
Next slide.
Online.
Oh, I'm sorry. Online.
If you want to unmute and let us know who's on the WebEx.
I'm Lisa Frank. I'm the City of Pittsburgh's Chief Operating Officer.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Tosh Chambers here, Director of Mobility from Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership.
Hi, Tosh.
Good afternoon, Doug Seeley with PennDOT District 11, Assistant District Executive.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, sorry. This is John Quatman, Transportation Planning and Programming Manager here at PennDOT District 11.
Hi, John.
I'm Mavis here in the OTMA.
Hi, Mavis.
Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie Ma, PennDOT District 11.
Hello, everyone. Jordan Bergamasco, PennDOT District 11 Planning Programming Unit.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave Holohan, PennDOT District 11 Planning and Programming Unit.
Hi, everyone. This is Joey Georgie, Public Relations Specialist at Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission.
Hi, Chuck Imbrogno, SPC's Manager of Models and Data.
Hi, Tom Clavan, SPC Manager of Transit Planning.
Hi, Tom.
Anyone else online want to introduce themselves that we didn't get?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Aaron Sukanek from the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership.
Hi, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. As I mentioned, we are from the Southwestern Commission, Pennsylvania Commission. We are the federally designated metropolitan planning organization, the local development district, and the economic development district, and we serve 10 counties. We specialize in planning, development, grants, and technical assistance, and stakeholder engagement. And again, we serve as a forum for collaboration and planning. Our programs range from strategic initiatives, so that includes broadband and water resource, to transportation planning, maps and data and information, and work in economic and development. Our mission is to bring leaders to the table, decision makers to the table and plan for continued growth and investment in the Southwestern region. This public meeting is an example of that. Today, our team is going to present on the 2025-2028 draft PIP in the Transportation Improvement Program process. These are projects, again, that are in your community. After they finish, I will wrap up and tell you a little bit about the ways that you can provide us, or you can engage with the SPC, and also provide us your input and your feedback. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity to ask and address questions. Now I'm going to hand it over to Rich.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. And first of all, I want to thank Mayor Gainey and Lisa and our friends at DOMI for the participation throughout the year in the meetings that have occurred that Director DeAndre and his team and Ryan have had throughout the year as they put this plan together, this draft proposal that will go to the commission at our June meeting. As Rhonda indicated, there's the 10 counties. So as part of the 30-day comment period, we are going around to all 10 counties and the city of Pittsburgh to make the presentation, but also to hear from the public and the residents of these communities. And it's been very, very helpful. We were in Indiana on Wednesday, Beaver yesterday. Ryan did a great job in doing that and giving that presentation to the folks in those counties. And then obviously today, the city of Pittsburgh, which is the core of the region and what we're going to be doing. I also want to thank our friends at PennDOT, Jason Zhang and his people at District 11, who've really, really been very helpful, again, in helping us craft the plan that you're about to see. Don will go into a lot of the details, and then we'll obviously have some input and some questions as we do this. I'm going to be bouncing in and out today because we're also dealing with two things today: broadband, which is really important to a whole lot of folks as well. And we're trying to get that plan together too. So I'll be going over the meeting over there in a little bit. But it's really important for people to understand that every 2 years, we update the 4-year plan. And that's what we're in essence doing right now. So during this 30-day comment period, it'll be going to each county, all 10 counties, plus the city of Pittsburgh will be going through this and doing all this. So with that, let's turn it over to the director. Don, take it away.
Thank you, Rich. Again, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. I would also like to acknowledge the City of Pittsburgh staff, specifically Jeff Scallican from DOMI, and also Allegheny County staff, as well as PennDOT staff that are all here with us today for their efforts in working with us to put this plan together. Thank you all for continuing to support our Transportation Improvement Program efforts. We are here today to talk about future investments in our region, and specifically the city of Pittsburgh, and present you the draft Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, as we call it. The TIP is one of the most important efforts led by SPC. We started this effort over 1.5 years ago and included many meetings with your city and county staff, PennDOT folks, Pittsburgh Regional Transit, and others. There is over $300 million worth of highway, bridge, or bicycle pedestrian projects within the city of Pittsburgh that touch the city of Pittsburgh in this draft TIP. So here's the game plan for this afternoon. We're going to talk about planning in the tip. We're going to talk about how we developed it. We're going to talk about funding. We're going to talk about investments in our region. We're going to talk about some of the city projects that are on the current tip and projects that are going to be on the new tip. And we're going to wrap it up by talking about some of the federally required supporting documents. I'll get a little technical there. And then wrap it up with talk about our public engagement process. And at the very end, we will take questions. We do have display boards at the very end of this meeting. We can walk toward the display boards and look at the display boards. And if you also have any questions at that point, we have, city staff here, we have SBC staff. We'll take questions as well then. I've also in the chat box, since the folks online can't see the display boards, we have placed the TIP story map link in the chat box, so you have an opportunity to look at that link. Those are interactive maps where you can click on a point in some of those maps in the story map and actually see information about the projects. Next slide. So public comment on the draft 2025 TIP is now underway through June 7th. That's the end of the 30-day comment period. In June of 2023, SPC Commission adopted the region's official long-range transportation plan, Smart Moves for a Changing Region, which includes the region's transportation priorities over 25 years. Smart Moves sets the regional strategies, prioritizes programs and projects that advance the regional vision of a world-class, safe, and well-maintained integrated transportation system that provides mobility for all, enables resilient communities, and supports a globally competitive economy. The region's long-range transportation plan is implemented with a series of shorter-term investment plans known as the TIP. Each TIP, like the one currently out for public review, is a step along the long-term investment in our region's future. The 2025 draft TIP funding will infuse over $4 billion toward improving our region's transportation system over the next 4 years. Next slide, please. So this slide sort of shows how the current TIP and the draft TIP sort of overlap. So we're in the current TIP, which is 2023 to 2026. We're currently in year 2 of that TIP. So the TIP is a 4-year plan, a 4-year pipeline of projects that gets updated every 2 years. It includes both a transit side and a highway bridge side. But what you must remember, we update the TIP. It's that snapshot in time. We work 1.5 years to do that, to really create that TIP. But it is a living and breathing document. We meet monthly with the Transit Operators Committee and with the Transportation Technical Committee to make amendments to the TIP on a monthly basis. Why do we do that? Well, because we get bids that are sometimes a little high. We get projects that are ready to go ahead of schedule. Sometimes projects are a little bit behind schedule. So things, the TIP gets, moved around, money gets moved around to address things that are ready to go, basically. Next slide. So projects continue to progress through the program phase by phase. Here is a list of some of the recently completed TIP projects in the city of Pittsburgh. We have I-79 CAP project, that was the last TIP, current TIP. Allegheny Circle Phase 2 construction, that Allegheny Circle is now 2-way, and it has a bicycle track as well. West Ohio Street and Ridge Avenue bridges, 10th Street bypass, pavement preservation, Sawmill Run, that's Route 51, mill and overlay. State Route 837, Carson Street reconstruction. Then we have West End bypass, Parkway West reconstruction. And we have Carson Street from 33rd Street to Smithfield Street. That was a safety improvement project that's been recently completed. And we have Central Business District, City of Pittsburgh Central Business District signal work. That is a continuing project. That's phase 3 that has recently been completed. Notable construction projects, active construction projects right now in the city of Pittsburgh. We have the Armstrong Tunnel. We have the McKees Rocks Bridge phase 2. We have PRT's University Line BRT from downtown to Oakland. And we have the Charles Anderson Bridge, which is going to be a highlight on the next slide. Next slide, please. Again, Charles Anderson Bridge, a very critical city of Pittsburgh owned bridge. It connects Oakland with Shenley Park and points east like Greenfield and Squirrel Hill neighborhoods. Bids were opened in February with the low bid being awarded at $48.5 million. It is 780 feet long, and when open, it has about 20,000 vehicles a day on average traveling on it. A very important local bridge connection. Construction will start soon and is expected to be completed sometime in 2026. Am I right, Jeff? 2026. When completed, it will be more accommodating to bicyclists and walkers as the sidewalks will be widened and there will be space on the new bridge to accommodate bicycle traffic. Next slide. So moving into the 2025 draft tip that is currently out for public comment. Next slide. So this is sort of a generalized version of our tip development process. It begins and ends with public engagement. The star is where we are at today at the start of the public comment period for the draft tip. During the tip development process, we held 6 meetings with District 11 tip work group, which includes PennDOT District 11 staff, representatives from the 3 counties served by District 11, Allegheny, Beaver, and Lawrence, and the city of Pittsburgh as well. Previous public comments were reviewed and considered for candidate project inclusion at our work group meetings. The process included candidate identification and screening, carryover analysis, and development of a pre-draft tip, which was reviewed by folks in Harrisburg at PennDOT Central Office. Concurrently, SPC ran its selection process for our competitive programs, including CMAC, carbon reduction program, and transportation alternatives programs. These are programs that SPC takes the lead on and funds many of the ped bike and trail projects that we're going to see on the tip. The draft tip comment period will conclude again, as I said, on June 7th, and the commission will take up approval, as Rich said, at their June 24th meeting. Next slide. Next, we'll take a look at the funding and financial planning and the investment this draft tip has at the regional level. Next slide, please. So this is a chart that tracks the trend in the highway bridge base funds that SPC receives. You can see that the 2025 tip will have an increase over the 2023 base funds of approximately 7%. This is largely due to an increase in state funds. The motor license fund proceeds will be returned to PennDOT programs and projects, ending a transfer of funds to the Pennsylvania State Police. That was a decision made at the legislative level. In addition, we have seen increases from the most recent transportation bill, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, and the new programs that came out of it, like the carbon reduction program. Next slide. As with the current tip and with several of the recent tips, bridges continue to be the largest investment in the highway bridge side of the tip. The region continues to invest heavily in bridge work, making up 43% of the total highway bridge tip. Projects to address poor bridges and projects to preserve and extend the life of other bridges is all part of the investment in bridge assets. On bridge condition, we have made strides in the last 10 to 12 years, cutting the number of poor bridges in half during that time period. But we still have work to do. Our region still has 13% of its bridges in poor condition. That's the entire region, 10 counties. In the city, that number is more like 23% in terms of poor bridges that are city-owned. That is why, working with DOMI, we have included 10 city-owned bridges on this tip, more city bridges than on recent tips. After this bridge investment at 43%, We have roadway work invested at 22%, efficiency and operations projects at 13%, safety at 13%, and ped bike at 4%, and transit at 3%. All numbers relating to the TIP. Next slide, please. So what are the investments in transportation in terms of dollar figures through the 2025 draft TIP? The draft TIP invests $860 million in the region's bridge infrastructure on over 280 bridges, 140 of them poor bridges. Over $342 million on non-interstate national highway system. We expect a 14% reduction with this investment, a 14% further reduction in poor bridges region-wide. The draft TIP invests over $437 million in the region's roadway infrastructure, 54 projects. The draft TIP invests $253 million in safety projects, 51 projects. The TIP includes investing over $848 million in infrastructure improvements on current transit routes. Those are roadways and bridges that transit touches. The draft TIP includes $688 million in the region's freight network, very critical to our economy. The draft TIP includes $72.4 million invested in bicycle and pedestrian improvement projects. Next tip, next slide, sorry. A tip on the brain. On the transit side, the total base federal and state funds are up nearly 12% over the current 2023 TIP. State operating support for shared ride service is projected to be flat, even though we're seeing some rising costs to provide the shared ride service. Next slide. So on the transit side, looking at the investment breakdown, the largest investment is in operation assistance at 70% of the overall program, followed by buses, fixed guideway, and bus support. Buses 8%, fixed guideway 6%, and bus support 6%. State funds are a much larger percentage of the transit TIP. And we'll get into some dollar figures here in the next slides. Next slide. So the draft TIP invests over $2.2 billion in the region's transit infrastructure and operations. The region will invest a little over $300 million for new clean diesel and alternate fuel small transit vehicles and buses over the period of the draft TIP. PRT will invest about $150 million in upgrades to the busway and rail line bridges, tunnels, tracks, and rights-of-way over the period of the TIP. The region will invest over $30 million in upgrades to and construction of maintenance and administrative facilities over the next over the draft TIP, the next 4 fiscal years. PRT will invest about $67 million in new light rail vehicles over the next 4 years. Next slide. Next, we'll touch on TIP development projects in the city and some other required documents. Next slide. So the impact of inflation on construction costs drove many of the costs for the carryover project significantly higher. Some of the key causes were demand overwhelming limited supply of construction materials on multiple fronts that can result in fewer bidders and higher bid costs, which is the prime driving factor right now nationally. Oil and diesel prices, and I'll show you in the next slide what those increases are. But the increase in oil and diesel prices impacts the industry at multiple points in terms of asphalt production, cost of transport, and running equipment. And then supply chain snarls, most relevant for construction equipment costs. Next slide. So in one of the early steps in the process, the work group looks at carryover analysis. In other words, carrying projects over from one TIP to another, because some projects get started in the middle of a TIP and have to carry over into another TIP period. So the carryover analysis, which is the projects that are currently on the TIP that must carry over. In doing this, we look at updating the cost estimates on the carryover projects. One thing that's been a factor, as we discussed, in the fall is the impact of inflation and the price increases on fuel and construction materials. We pulled this chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing nationwide trends in some of these key materials. Diesel fuel is up 76%. Rebar and costs for other steel products are up 75 and 65%. Going to the bottom of the chart, labor and engineering is up too, but not as much as materials, as you can see from looking at that chart. Next slide. So even though we are experiencing cost increases, we still have many projects advancing in the city of Pittsburgh. Some of the city of Pittsburgh highlights on the highway bridge tip, $65 million investment in roadways, including Smithfield Street reconstruction, Penn Avenue reconstruction, Bigelow Boulevard preservation, Sawmill Run Boulevard, and that phase will be from Route 88 to the Parkway West, preserving that pavement, and then East Carson Street Mill and Overlay. We have 27 million in investment in Ped Bike. I'll highlight new pathways to equity. That is the raised federal discretionary grant that the city obtained, which will work on improving intersections, improving sidewalks, steps, improving signals in the Hill District neighborhood. I'll also point out Pittsburgh Micro Mobility Bike Share. We can POGO. We continue to support POGO's expansion and expansion of their network, and also expansion of their electric vehicle initiative, electric bike initiative. Sorry, electric bike initiative. We also have, I believe, four sets of city steps in the tip. Very important. The city of Pittsburgh, as you all know, has many of these older steps that connect neighborhoods and connect streets that are, we have hillsides in the city. So these steps get you up and down hillsides, and I think we have 4 city steps projects. And then we also have the Bronzeville Road safety improvements that we recently funded with one of our competitive programs. I do want to mention, in terms of projects within the city, PennDOT sponsored projects in the city. PennDOT Connects policy. For those that don't know, PennDOT Connects is a step in the process where if PennDOT has a project in the neighborhood, any neighborhood, PennDOT will coordinate with local municipalities to gather local input on the project. With new projects on the tip, the Connects policy indicates that Connects meetings are to be held with local governments for new tip projects to identify local plans in the project area. So it's the idea of PennDOT meeting with the community early on in the project process so that they can find out if there are any local plans for bike and ped facilities, public transit routes and stops, planned development in the area, community events, et cetera. Next slide. Continuing with City of Pittsburgh investments, we have $114 million invested in bridges within the City of Pittsburgh. Those first 2 bullets are state-owned bridges, West End Bridge, the Route 65 ramps, and the 42 King Bridge. Those next 3 bullets, South Negley Avenue Bridge, Swinburne Bridge, and 28th Street Bridge. Those are all City of Pittsburgh owned bridges, 3 of them, which we've highlighted here out of the 10 that are on the tip. $81 million investment in operations and safety. We have the Parkway East active traffic management project, which is basically a safety project that will have more active control of the Parkway East during incidents and so forth. We have the Banksville interchange and the work that's planned for really modernizing a lot of the interchanges along the Parkway. We have the Route 28 wrong way detection system. Many of you may have seen a lot of news articles recently about wrong way crashes. Wrong way crashes, they don't happen as often as normal crashes, but when they do happen, they result in high fatalities and high injuries. And this Route 28 is a place where a lot of these wrong way crashes have happened recently. And so there's going to be some technology applied and a wrong way detection system incorporated on Route 28, so that if a car does happen to enter Route 28 in the wrong direction, it gets detected and notifies PennDOT Traffic Control Center, and also have the ability to notify drivers that are already on 28 that a wrong way driver is coming. Smart Pittsburgh, Phase 1 and 2, that is a project that's another federally funded project that will improve over 126 signalized intersections along many corridors within the city of Pittsburgh. And then we have the Liberty Avenue Operations and Safety Project. That is a safety project that will take Liberty Avenue mainly through the Strip District area. We have a very narrow 4 lanes of Liberty Avenue in that area, and that'll be a road it will be converted to 3 lanes, so to increase safety and enhance safety along that corridor. Next slide. So on the transit side in the city of Pittsburgh, we have some highlights of projects that are sponsored by Pittsburgh Regional Transit. Bus procurement, $250 billion for 60 plus vehicles in terms of replenishing the bus fleet. Light rail vehicles, $67 million for 81 light rail vehicles. That's just to get that procurement started. Fixed guideway improvements, as we mentioned before, construction and improvements to busways, light rail, bus rapid transit and inclines, including pavement renovation, track and signal rehabilitation, $76.5 million across the tip. And the Ohio River Light Rail Extension Corridor Plan, that's a planning phase to follow on from the Manchester Transit Revitalization Investment District funded feasibility study. So that's more of a study and a follow-up to a study phase. Next slide. In addition to the regional tip, there is a statewide managed interstate program. We include the interstate program as part of the tip, and you'll see it in our tip documents over the next 4 years. Here you can see the interstate projects in District 11, and some of these are within the city of Pittsburgh. I'll just highlight Fort Pitt Bridge to Squirrel Hill, bridge preservation and paving. Squirrel Hill Interchange is in the city of Pittsburgh. Commercial Street Bridge is in the city of Pittsburgh. Fort Duquesne Bridge Rehab and Preservation is within the city of Pittsburgh. The bathtub section, that's the section that recently flooded, but has a history of flooding. That's a section of the Parkway East near the Grant Street exit. That's in the city of Pittsburgh, and you see the tip amounts. The Fraser Street Bridge is within the city of Pittsburgh as well. And the Fort Pitt Bridge to Squirrel Hill barrier, that's also within the city of Pittsburgh. And the Banksville Interchange is within the city of Pittsburgh. All larger investments on our interstate, but many of which are within the city of Pittsburgh. Next slide. So now this is sort of the technical part of this. I'll try to go through it quickly. This is the federally required. We are federally required to make sure that our tip conforms to air quality standards, federal air quality standards for our area. So here on this slide, what you see here is the EPA has designated 3 non-attainment and maintenance areas in the SPC planning region for the 8-hour ozone standard. The Pittsburgh Beaver Valley non-attainment area, comprised of 7 counties: Allegheny, Armstrong, Beaver, Butler, Fayette, Washington, and Westmoreland. That's the area in blue. The Greene County maintenance area, comprised of Greene County in its entirety. That's the area in green. I'm really happy that Greene County is green. The Clearfield, Indiana maintenance area comprised of Clearfield County, which is technically outside of our planning area, and Indiana County, which is within our planning area. That's the area in orange. Conformity determinations for transportation plans and programs are based as appropriate on build, no build analysis, comparisons to an emission budget, and/or comparison to emissions levels from a base year. For the Pittsburgh Beaver Valley ozone area, the charts on the right refer to the EPA ozone standard. The graph on the top is nitrogen oxides, a byproduct of fuel combustion. The graph on the bottom is The graph on the bottom is nitrogen oxides. The graph on the top is volatile organic compounds, mostly unburned gas from the tailpipe. For both graphs, the top line is the motor vehicle emission budget approved for our area for the type of emission represented in the graph in tons per day. The bottom line is the emission projection in tons per day. Conformity is demonstrated if emission projection is lower than the budget. The graphs do show that this is the case for our draft plan. Next slide. The next slide is also an air quality conformity slide. So this is for particulate matter. This map shows the Pittsburgh Beaver Valley PM, particulate matter 2.5 area. The term fine particles or particulate matter 2.5 refers to tiny particles or droplets in the air that are 2.5 microns or less in width. So the graph on the bottom is nitrogen oxides, a byproduct of fuel combustion. The graph on the top are precursor emissions, including tire wear, brake wear, and fuel combustion byproducts. Both graphs, again, top line is the motor vehicle emission budget approved for our area. Bottom line is the emission projection in tons per year. Again, conformity is demonstrated if emission projection is lower than the budget. This graph also shows that this is the case. In conclusion, our draft tip and our long-range plan update with this draft tip is in conformance with the Federal Clean Air Act. Next slide. I have one slide here on environmental justice. So the conclusion of our environmental justice analysis indicates that projects identified in our draft long-range plan demonstrates that benefits of the program projects and total investment of resources are equitable to populations who are traditionally or have the potential to be disadvantaged in the planning process. We did a thorough analysis of this. No population groups were found to be disproportionately or adversely affected by the implementation of our draft plan. We have to make sure that the benefits and burdens of the TIP projects are equitably distributed. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Rhonda to round things out. Rhonda will talk about our public comment period and process, and then after Rhonda, we'll take questions.
Thanks, Tom. So as you mentioned, I'm going to talk about everything with public comments and so forth. Next slide. So there's many efforts that we take to get comments, feedback, and have discussions about the projects and so forth. For example, we have committee meetings, whether it be TTC, TOC, TDM. We also have public participation panels, and a shout out to those who are panelists that are joining us today in person. It's great to see you. Also, our partners at PennDOT, we get their comments through the State Transportation Commission 12-year plan. Also, we've gotten input and comments from the formal TIP 2023, and then also the long range, the formal comment period in 2023. We had 11 meetings in the fall throughout the region. And comments and feedback that we received through our planning initiatives such as the four-door studies and the road safety audits. Next slide. We're on day 3 of our public meetings. And again, they started on Wednesday and will run until the first week of June that we'll have those meetings. This is tell you where we're at and what day, and you can find a more in-depth schedule on our website. Next slide. So there's various ways that people can submit their comments and their feedback. There's paper comments that everybody has in front of them and also can be located back there on the table. If you jot down your feedback, your comments, just give them back to her, hand them back to me. Or if you take it home, you can fill it out and snail mail it back. There's our address on the screen. If you choose to do it that way. You can submit your comments electronically. You can submit them to the comments box there at comments@spcregion.org. Also to the right, that QR code, if you click that, that'll take you to, again, electronic version of the public comment form. You can fill it out and submit it back. Our website is a great resource. The Get Involved tab has all the resource or all the ways that you can, again, submit your feedback and your comments. And then also in front of you is an evaluation form. Please tell us your thoughts, how we did today. We use that as a tool moving forward and how to improve our meetings. And also feel free to give me a call if you have any questions or if you want to submit a comment that way. My phone number is there. And then again, my personal email is rcraig@spcregion.org. So again, there's so many ways that you can submit your feedback, even picking up the phone and calling SPC. And we encourage you to do that. All of your feedback and your comments are collected and it is put into a report. And again, we're looking at each one of them. So next slide. As Dawn mentioned, we're going to open it up for questions.
Hey, Rhonda, this is Mavis with OTMA. 2 questions. One, do you know if this presentation is actually available on the SPC website that we could share for folks who weren't able to attend? And then 2, what's the deadline for the public comments for the tip?
I'm sorry. The end of the public comment period is June 7th. And I will send out the presentation to all the panelists and the, that way, but we can make it probably, somewhere on there that you would be able to grab it, Mavis, along with others. Yeah.
Thank you.
A question for Don. This is David Ombers at T-Mobile. So I noticed recently this PennDOT program with the on-ramp and the runway lights going off, and that technology is amazing. I see more cities across the country using technology in their streets with sidewalk signs and so forth. Do you see us as county and city installing more technology to monitor bridges, health, for example, and so forth in the future? Yeah, I think technology has to be part of the answer for some of this. We've seen some inclusion of technology to monitor some of our bridges, but I see technology. You're going to start to see technology. This active traffic management project on the Parkway East, that's going to be a technology project. I think you're going to see the ability to change speeds on the Parkway with signage, variable lanes. So if there's an incident, there's a crash that's blocking a particular lane, folks are going to know about that a lot sooner than they do now. And it'll give PennDOT the ability to manage it better and to really respond to the incident quicker. And if necessary, worst case, close the parkway and have folks detoured and notify folks not even to get on the parkway when it's a parking lot, right, because of an accident. So that type of incorporation of technology on the freeways. The city is doing a Smart Pittsburgh project. That project, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, what that project's going to do is it's going to prioritize, give priority at intersections for certain modes depending on the intersection data in terms of folks walking, folks driving. Is it a freight corridor? Perhaps even bus priority. So you see in a lot of other cities what's known as transit signal priority, where if the signal will detect the bus and give it an extended period of time to get through the intersection. So those types of things, I think, they're going to start to see incorporated more and more.
The Smart Spines initiative. Yeah, I was going to say, let's continue a little bit. With that, part of that project is also putting together a TMC room, Traffic Management Center, for the city of Pittsburgh. And it will also be able to tell us if the car broke down or if there's something that, like, the car's disabled, we'll be able to get help out there, get that car off the road, et cetera. So this will be all new to the city too, is we're going to have a whole new system in a new building that we're working on right now, build out. Actually, the position is posted right now for a TMC operator. That's a little plug there. Be the first one in the whole city, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're excited about the new technology and to work with SPC to get some of these projects going.
The whole key there is more active management. More active management using technology, because incidents really cause about 25% of all the congestion. So if you can manage that, you're going to make it better for months.
Yeah, and then that's great to hear the new technology is coming out, and I, reading about it as well, where you can opt in perhaps just to your cell phone to tell you that, hey, there's an incident ahead, slow down, kind of thing, or somebody's in a crosswalk, 3 or 4 blocks away. So there's the communication of the vehicle as well. So it'd be great to hear. Thank you. Yep.
This might be more of a question for Angie, but the Vision Zero adoption is still relatively fresh. Did that flavor a lot of the projects, or was Domi already, going down that path with your projects? It seems like you were, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the TIP is a regional effort and it occurs on the interval that Dom explained. The development of the city of Pittsburgh's high injury network and our Vision Zero policy was done sort of after or concurrent with some of the TIP comment period. I think that right now, it's a planning tool and a policy tool, but we're entering local capital budget season and we're entering all of our grant approach, thinking about how we're, going to prioritize roadway safety and our transportation investments. I don't think that's singing in the TIP development necessarily because of just the timing and also the scale of
the implementation grants. You have to get into Vision Zero first before you do the implementation.
Yeah.
Hopefully in 2 years when we're back here again, you'll see some of those projects and you can
and we're doing with the county a SS4A, which is a USDOT federal grant, where we're going to be looking at corridors, which I think we're going to be doing the planning work on so that we are laying the groundwork for the next implementation plan to be able to fund those types of projects.
You have your high injury network already, you said, right?
We have it back,
Okay,
for the city.
And the county.
And we hope to identify, as part of our Safe Streets for All grant that SPC received, we expect to identify county-wide high injury network, because that study is for Allegheny County, including the city of Pittsburgh.
Thanks.
Yep.
I have a question. In your review of the cost estimates for the carryover projects, I apologize if I missed it. Were you able to say like how much of an increase we've seen in projects? And how does that compare to maybe the last time we updated the tip? Because cost impacts seem to have escalated so much in recent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an exact number for you, but I know that when we first looked at our carryover for the entire District 12, our carryover was higher than it ever had been. So the amount of money that we had to put towards projects that were already programmed was the highest that we'd encountered. I think it was somewhere around like 600 million we had on existing projects already. So, and that's a function of the cost estimates impacting, or the inflation and impacting the cost estimates, because we have to look at the carryover first. So that limited us a little bit to the ability to add new projects, but we're always going to add new projects, and because we want to have design in the pipeline. We don't want to have no projects designed, but it was the biggest impact I had seen, with cost increases since probably going back at least 4 or 5 tips.
Yeah, I don't want to speak, we have some folks from District 11 on the line, and they get a lot of bids. I mean, there was a time period there where, we saw bids that were anywhere from 30 to 50% above the engineer's estimates. And there was a period there at our TTC meetings where it was like, oh, we got a high bid. Oh, we got a high bid.
Yeah.
So, we have to deal with that because of, things I explained in the presentation, supply chain stuff, inflation. It seems to have, I don't know if District 11 wants to talk to any of that, but it seems to have, inflation seems to have flattened off a little bit. Doug, you have anything you want to say about that?
Estimates.
Can you guys see me? I don't know if you can see me.
We can hear you, Doug.
We can hear you.
You can hear me, but you can't see me.
Wow.
You can hear me all right?
We can hear you great.
Okay. I would say things have seemed to have leveled off a little bit with the bids coming in compared to our estimates. Obviously, our estimates have adjusted coming out of COVID, but yeah, right out of COVID, I would say estimates were going anywhere from 15 to 20% higher than what they were going into COVID. So we obviously had to adjust for that from a budgeting standpoint, and just state revenues were down too. So that impacted things. But I think we've kind of leveled off. Obviously, we're still at a higher price point. We're getting less buying power out of our projects. So you see the overall value of the tip and how much money is tied to the tip, but we're not maybe getting as many projects out of that dollar value now, just because the prices of things are obviously higher as we all fill in our own wallets, right? So yeah, but I mean, we're doing a better job matching our estimates with what those bids are now, just because we've adjusted over the last couple of years to come to the reality of what things are costing now. Costs aren't coming down, but we're able to at least estimate a little bit better on what we're going to get with the bids. So.
Hey, everyone. Aaron Sukanik with the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. We've been working closely with DOMI on the phase 1 for Smithfield Street. And we are almost done, I think, with the designs, really excited about them. And I think, as many of you know, Smithfield Street is an important priority for us. It was a big part of the downtown mobility plan in 2021 and the Smith Group plan that followed that was a little more specific to that corridor. And now, with the BRT coming online and then the route changes that'll follow that, Smithfield will become sort of even more of a bus transit workhorse street, while at the same time, needing an economic repositioning through a number of potential of conversion projects of office to residential. So we just feel that it is a very high priority and the timing is really optimal to kind of keep going with Smithfield Street after the phase one. And right now, the phase one, which is the 3 blocks between 6th Avenue and Forbes, is slated to start in summer of 25, finish in summer of 26. And the phase 2 funding, which is basically going from the rest of the blocks. So that block between 6th and Liberty, and then from Forbes all the way to Fort Pitt Boulevard. That's in the long range plan, I believe, for 2029. So all this to say, if there's any possible way that that can be shifted, or even a portion of it shifted upward, to closer to having the work start in 2027, just so we can keep that project rolling, that'd be really important to us.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for that comment. We have, I think, 7 million in this tip for Smithfield Street. As you mentioned, the second phase is in the long range plan. I guess, a lot of that will be up to the progress the city makes on the first phase of Smithfield Street. That's how we feed the tip. We feed the tip through the long range plan process. So the long range plan is a 25-year plan that's broken up into 8-year segments, 3 8-year segments. And that first 8 years, the first 4 years is the tip. So if we have that project, in the pipeline in the long range plan, eventually it's going to get to the tip. Now, in terms of your time frame, and that, I guess it's all going to depend on how the progress that's made in the first phase, and any complexities or any difficulties that you have. If it goes smoothly, then perhaps priorities, and time frames change all the time. These are, as I said in my presentation, these are living, breathing documents that we talk about and meet on every month. But your comment is noted. Yep.
Thanks.
Hey, Dom, this is Mavis again. There's a question in the chat for Doug and District 11 regarding future plans for the 10th Street bypass downtown.
A lot of news published about the federal funding for fixing the bathtub on the Parkway East. But what are the long-term plans for the 10th Street bypass downtown that also floods often? I don't know, Doug, if you have a response to that?
Can you see me now?
Yeah.
I can see it.
I got you.
So I would say that we don't currently have anything on the tip, to my knowledge, long range or TYP for 10th Street bypass. Obviously, it does flood, as mentioned. I would say that the impacts aren't as great, obviously, with the 10th Street bypass flooding. There's easier alternate routes to deal with that scenario versus obviously the interstate and the bathtub. So the focus has primarily been on the bathtub, and as mentioned, we just were fortunate to get grant funding through the Mega Grant and the Protect Grant to advance that project. Not to say that we won't look at 10th Street in the future, but right now that's not, to my knowledge, we don't have that project anywhere on the tip, TYP or long range. But we could work with the city, continue to work with the city, because I know we just did a project down there last year, in the last 2 years, to a joint project to seal up that pavement, preserve the concrete that's there. But that would be a very challenging location as well to address flooding issues. So, but yeah, short answer, we don't have a project right now, but something we can obviously look into as we move forward.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions?
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us online. Thank you for your time and your questions were noted. Thank you for joining us. For those in the room, if you would like to look at the maps, if you have any questions, let us know.
I'd like to thank Dom and SPC and PennDOT. You guys did a great job. I really appreciate it. Thanks again. And thanks for everybody that came out today. Appreciate it too and online. Angie and I will be up there to take anybody's comments if you guys want to talk to us, okay?
Thank you all for participating today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.